Lecture 7. The Style of Taiwan Aboriginal Map, Images, Symbols, and Techniques. Special features of Taiwan Aboriginal Map. Taiwan Aboriginal Map, a collection of National Taiwan Library, is a 330 centimeters long and 36 centimeters tall colored scroll map with illustrative paintings in the style of traditional Chinese shui art. The presumed cartographer who made the map had the north on the left-hand side and the south right-hand side, while the east up on the top and the west down below. The map includes not only images of natural resources like mountains, rivers, seashores, islands, and shoals, but also images or symbols of man-made facilities like farmhouses, temples, city walls, government buildings, military camps, street networks, and Navy patrol routes. Place names and distances between villages were marked. It also shows images of interaction between human beings and their animals. In a word, the lifestyle back in the 18th century is so vividly presented. There was not a fixed scale for the entire map. The area in and around Tainan City was oversized and much more detailed than other places because Tainan used to be the biggest Taiwanese city in the 18th century and was thus the most recorded and studied one. Places north of Tainan, on the other hand, were often undersized and simplified because they had not been fully discovered. The central mountain range, where indigenous peoples resided, was not accurately depicted either. The presumed Han cartographer who made this map had apparently little knowledge about the range, so the place where it should have been was substituted with some imaginary shan shui-styled mountains. In the eyes of the Han people, the eastern part of Taiwan was even further away than the range, so the cartographer just left a huge blank on the eastern part because it was deemed unreachable. Let's take a look at the daily lives of Taiwanese ancestors. The images of Han and indigenous people living their lives may be the most interesting part of the map. You can see people riding bullock carts, driving cattle, walking, hunting with the help of dogs, carrying wild boars they had just hunted or firewood they had just collected with shoulder yokes, and giving care to their children. In a word, the daily lives of people from 300 years ago have been graphically recorded. Most figures on the map are topless, with only blue, white, or red shorts on them. We can also see people use spears, bows, and arrows to hunt Formosan sika deers, wild boars, rabbits, and oxen. Animals like farming oxen, hauling oxen, Formosan sika deers, dogs, and horses have been vividly depicted. Oxen on the map are either bubalis bubalis in gray color or bos taurus in yellow. There are 4 horses beside the military camp of Tainan and are apparently for military use. For all the houses, it is very common to find thorny bamboo in their backyards. Thorny bamboo can be made into building materials, furniture, and defensive walls. Beetles are widely planted in the area to the south of the Mado tribe, Tainan. Indigenous people have usually planted them beside their houses. Beetles played an important role in the daily lives of indigenous peoples, according to pertinent records we have found. Perhaps that was the reason why beetle leaves on the map were drawn oversized, making them look like leaves from coconut trees or mountain date palms. Some houses on the map stand alone, while others stand along with 1, 2, 3, 4, or even more other house or houses. Roofs are covered with either thatch or other materials. Roofs not covered by thatch were painted either ochre or dark blue to mark the owner's social status. Ochre roofs belong to ordinary people outside of Tainan City. Dark blue roofs, on the other hand, were on the tops of government buildings, military camps, temples, and most ordinary houses in Tainan City. Can you tell how Taiwan Aboriginal map was made? Historians can hardly find any record about Taiwan in Chinese documents before the Ming Dynasty, because Taiwan was just an unnamed small island without any significance from the perspective of mainlanders. Neither can we rely on the records made by Taiwanese indigenous peoples to study Taiwanese geography before the Ming, because they had hardly ever made any maps. Not until the year 1683, when the Qing military forces entered Taiwan, did the first scroll maps of Taiwan come into existence. These early-day scroll maps were colored and detailed and huge in size, one of them being Taiwan Aboriginal map. About 70% of the maps made in the Qing era were in the style of Chinese shui art, with place names and distances between villages marked on them, which has been a great help for historians trying to uncover local histories. The makers of these early-day maps usually chose to draw their maps from a tilted bird's-eye view in which they could only see places west of the central mountain range, with the eastern part blocked by the range. In this strategy, they could leave the whole eastern part of Taiwan in blank, since Han people had never studied the place. It should also be noted that these shan shui-styled map makers tended to mark more place names within places they had better familiarity with. Administrative divisions and areas of great importance or specialty were usually oversized as well. Places where Han people dwelled on were much more detailed than indigenous dwelling areas, which were usually in the mountains. Inaccurate as they may be, these old maps are still of great value and importance. The rich records of human activities and natural resources they kept are helping historians to see how the landscapes of Western Taiwan changed over time. Thanks to these maps, we can even take a look at how people had lived in the early Qing era. Symbols. What a map does is to represent real places on papers. It is impossible, no matter how hard you try, to represent a place without simplification. Cartographers usually use very simplified symbols to refer to real items, so that a map can include maximum information on a limited scope. Taiwan Aboriginal map is not an exception. Many of the real items on the map got symbolized and were drawn in a consistent art style. Examples are shown below. 1. Hills and mountains. 3/5 of Taiwan's area are covered by hills and mountains. On modern-day maps, hills and mountains are often represented in the form of contour lines. The maker of Taiwan Aboriginal map, on the other hand, represented them in shan shui-styled images. For example, the Central Range was depicted as a line of one mountain following another. 2. A busy port. The shoals of the sea off Tainan City were oversized to show nearby sailing ships and bullock carts in detail. The fact that there are a huge number of ships and carts in the Taijiang Inner Sea shows that it used to be a really busy port. 3. Civilian and military facilities. On the map, we can see a military base in Taishadao and fortresses in Tainan, Danshui, Jilong, and Penghu. There are also civilian and military facilities like Shanchuantai, Shunxia, artillery batteries, Jiaochang, Zhen, Ying, Xin, and Tang. The red lines are symbols for military deployment by the Qing. 4. Temples and dwelling houses. There are 9 temples on the map. Folklore religions have always been important belief systems in Taiwan. We can also see dwelling houses in villages all over the map, from northern Taiwan to southern Taiwan, and that's because Han people and indigenous people had explored and resided in the whole western part of Taiwan by the 18th century. 5. Various activities. Images like farmers, cattle, bullock carts, paddy and dry fields, and people hunting boars, oxen, and rabbits with the help of dogs have helped us to understand what it was like to make a living in 18th century Taiwan. The yellow line with black dots going from the north to the south shows the fact that people had been traveling back and forth on the western part of Taiwan on a regular basis. By reading these images and symbols, we have come to know the natural resources from 300 years ago, and we can experience the 18th century way of living. Thanks to the maker of the map, we now have the precious opportunity to travel back in time and journey through the live experiences of people from 3 centuries ago.